Hello students, welcome to classroom. Today we will be starting the first lesson, which is chemistry portion. Chapter 1. The name of the lesson is Chemical Reactions and Equations. In this lesson we will be learning about what a chemical reaction is, and also we'll be learning about balancing of chemical equations, then types of chemical reactions, and finally oxidation and reduction. Okay, so one by one I will be taking up the topics. In today's class we will start with what chemical reaction is, what are reactants, what are products, and how to write chemical equation. So let us start with the class. So what is a chemical reaction? So what is a chemical reaction? Question mark. Now this is a very important question. Since the lesson is about chemical reaction, anybody will ask you what a chemical reaction is. So it is important for you to know what a chemical reaction is. So what is a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is a process where one or more substances change into one or more new substances. Alright, so let's write the definition. So a chemical reaction is a process where one or more substances change. Okay, one or more substances here. I should be writing here reactants. They are called as the reactants. I'll explain it afterwards again. Where one or more substances called reactants change into one or more new, underline this word, new substances, and the new substances are called as the products. Alright, so what is a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is a process where one or more substances called as the reactants change into one or more new substances which are called as products. See students, the concept of reactant and products are very important. Every chemical reaction, okay, in every chemical reaction we will have reactants and we will have products. Okay, so remember that. Let us take one example here. Say A plus B gives AB. So let us identify the reactants and the products here. So in this representation of a chemical reaction, A and B, these together are called the reactants. All right, and AB becomes our product. Okay, now let us use an actual example here. Let us use example of carbon plus oxygen. So carbon plus oxygen, what do we get? We will get carbon dioxide. So carbon plus oxygen, carbon and oxygen here, they are our reactants, and carbon dioxide is our product. Are we clear? I hope they are all following. Okay, so this is what chemical reaction is. Okay, in every chemical reaction, remember students that we will be having reactants and the reactants will react and give us a product. Do not worry, I will give you the definition of reactants and products also. Okay, so without reactants there cannot be any chemical reaction. Without reactants we will also be not getting product. Okay, so remember, chemical reaction takes place between reactants and product. Right, now we go to the next one. So let me quickly tell you what reactants are and what products are. So now we will discuss what are reactants and what are products. So what are reactants? What are reactants? Let's just write what are reactants. Now these things are important so that you develop a strong concept in chemistry. Okay, so So the concept has to be strong. Okay, once you understand the concept, it's easy. And if you have weak concepts, then understanding becomes very difficult. So you should have a strong concept. So what are reactants? Reactants are the participating members in any chemical reactions. So reactants are the participating substances in any chemical reaction. Okay, this is one of the definition of what reactants are. Reactants are the participating substances in any chemical reaction. Now if we go back to the previous example, we got carbon dioxide as a product, yes or no? So we got this as a product. This was the product in the previous example. But here's a question: how did we get this product? Now if there were no reactants, could we have got this product? Could we have got this product if there were no reactants? The answer is no. Okay, so we need reactants, because the reactants are the participating substances. It is because of the presence of the reactants that you will be getting a product. So without participating substances, how can you get a product? So reactants are the participating substances. So reactants are here. So these two are the reactants. These two, carbon and oxygen, they participate, they undergo reaction, and then they give us this product. Are we clear? Now then, the next question: what are products? Now this is very simple. Okay, reactants undergo chemical reaction and then they give us product. So the definition of product is very simple: reactants undergo chemical reaction and give us products. Alright, so reactants undergo chemical reaction and gives us product. So let's go back to the previous example again. So we got this product, but how did we get this product? We got this product because of the reactants, is it not? It's because these two reactants, they underwent chemical reaction. Okay, and because they underwent chemical reaction, we got ourselves a product. Are we clear? Okay, so now these are not very difficult. Okay, these are just like a revision to help you build a strong concept. Okay, because this is also important. These are also important. The student should know these things: what reactants are, what chemical reactions are, and what products are. Now we will move to a very important topic, that is how to determine that a chemical reaction has taken place. So how to determine whether a chemical reaction has taken place. Question mark. Very important question. How do we know that a chemical reaction has taken place? Okay, are there some parameters, or are there some factors which can help us determine whether a chemical reaction has taken place? So the answer is yes. It is given there in your textbook. There are 4 factors mentioned there. So we will be studying them one by one. So the first one is change in state. Change in state. I will advise my students to kindly take notes. Okay, so maintain notes. Okay, maintain a notebook for these online classes, so that you have your school notes as well as notes from here, because I will be explaining all the topics, okay, as per the textbook pattern. So you will have good amount of notes. So start maintaining notes. So the first one is change in state. So what do you mean by change in state? See, now we are discussing how to determine whether a chemical reaction has taken place or not. Okay, remember, not just any reaction, but a chemical reaction. So the first one is change in state. So if in any reaction there has been a change in state. Okay, so we know the three states of matter. Okay, we have the solid, we also have the liquid, and we have the gas. So if in any reaction there has been a change in state, that means suppose the reactant was a solid but then the product is in liquid state or the product is in gaseous state, which means there has been a change in state as well. Okay, you took the reactant was solid, now the product is a liquid or the product is a gas, so there has been a change in state. Now those type of reaction will be considered a chemical reaction. So change in state, if you observe that there has been a change in state, then you can confirm that that is a chemical reaction. Okay, and not just any other reaction. Next one, it's change in color. Okay, change in color. So any reaction where we observe a change in color, those reactions are also chemical reactions. Here I want to use a simple example of iron. Okay, so the color of iron, let me just write it here. The color of iron is gray. Okay, gray because metals, metallic color is almost grayish. So the color of iron is gray. Okay, but when this iron is exposed to moisture, okay, when this iron is exposed to atmospheric oxygen, what happens is that it undergoes a reaction. Can anybody tell me what is the name of this reaction? You already have studied this in lower classes 6, 7. Yes, it's corrosion. Okay, so iron undergoes corrosion, and what this brings about is a change in the color of our iron. So now the iron, which was grayish in color, okay, has now become brownish in color, has undergone a change in color. So this is what is meant by change in color. So this reaction will be considered a chemical reaction. Are we clear? Next one, evolution of gas. Evolution of gas. Now, in any chemical reaction, if we observe release of gas or evolution of gas, then those reactions will also be considered as a chemical reaction. Okay, not only just gas, but even steam. Okay, steam, vapor. Okay, they are basically the same. Okay, this, okay, will also be considered as a chemical reaction. Next one, point number D. The fourth point. The fourth point is change in temperature. So change in temperature. Okay, change in temperature. Now, any reaction where we observe a change in temperature means maybe the previous temperature was say 10 degrees centigrade, but now the temperature is shot up to say 80 degree or 70 degree. So there has been a change in temperature, isn't it? Okay, from 10 degree to 70 degree. Okay, so any reaction where change in temperature occurs, such type of reaction will also be considered as a chemical reaction. Here, let us take an example. Say lime. Okay, lime. Okay, calcium oxide. Okay, calcium oxide in Nagamese we know it as tuna. Okay, which people smear it and consume it in betel nut leaves. Okay, so when calcium oxide is mixed in water, okay, a reaction takes place, and in the course of the reaction, what happened? The container, okay, the reaction being exothermic, which means it releases heat. So it releases heat and then the container becomes hot. So if you place your hand in the container, you will feel the warmth, you will feel the heat, okay, from your hands. So this is one example of a reaction where change in temperature is taking place. Okay, when calcium oxide is mixed with water, then a reaction takes place. The reaction generates heat, okay, which is indicated by the change, which is indicated by the rise in the temperature of the solution. So this is what is meant by change in temperature. So those reactions where change in temperature takes place, okay, those reactions will be considered as chemical reactions. So these are the 4 points that you have to know. Okay, you have to know to confirm whether a chemical reaction has actually taken place or not. I hope we are all clear. Okay, so now we move to the next topic. The next topic will be chemical equations. So let us have a look at chemical equations. So there are 2 ways. Okay, there are 2 ways to write chemical equations. One is the word equation and the other one is the skeletal equation. The word equation you have already learned in your lower grades. For class 10, okay, we will not be focusing on word equation, but there are questions where you have to convert word equations back to skeletal equations. So skeletal equations are more important for you in class 10. So let us have a look at chemical equations. Now, let me write a reaction here. So the reaction is taken from your textbook. When a magnesium ribbon is burned in oxygen, when a magnesium ribbon is burned in oxygen, it gets converted to magnesium oxide, it gets converted into magnesium oxide. So this is a reaction, okay, written in the form of a sentence. So there are 2 ways to write this, okay, to convert this. The first one is word equation, okay, and the second one is skeletal equation. For class 10, skeletal equation is very, very important. Okay. Now, what do you mean by word equation? By word equation, we mean when we represent the chemical reaction using the names of the substances. Okay. For example, okay, how can I represent this reaction in word equation? If I were to represent this reaction in word equation, then I'll be writing like this. Okay, I'll be writing like this. I'll be writing magnesium plus oxygen, okay, gives magnesium oxide. Okay, this is how we write in word equation. Okay, where we represent the substances. Okay, where we write the names of the substances. Okay, where we write the name of the substances directly. So these are the reactants. Okay, these are the reactants. Magnesium and oxygen are the reactants, and magnesium oxide is our product. This is how we write chemical reaction in word equation. Okay, now how do we write in skeletal equation? Now in skeletal equation, we will be using standard symbols of the elements or compounds. So here, skeletal equation is a representation of chemical equations using standard symbols. Okay, standard symbols. Now, what do you mean by standard symbols? See, by standard symbols here, okay, you need to know the names of the elements, and at the same time you need to know the symbols of the elements. Okay, for example, carbon is an element, okay, and this is how we write carbon. Okay, but this carbon has also a symbol. It's written as capital C. Then we have oxygen. Oxygen is the name of the element, but oxygen has a symbol O. Okay, iron is the name of an element, but iron has a symbol capital F, small letter E. So in schedule equation, you need to know this, okay? You need to know the symbols of the elements. Then it becomes much easier. So my advice to you will be to download the periodic table. Download the periodic table from the internet, okay? Type periodic table and download the periodic table from the internet. You'll get something like this, okay? The periodic table looks somewhat like this, okay? Here you will find the names of the elements. All the elements which have been discovered are all present in the periodic table, okay? So download the periodic table, and then from the periodic table you study the names of the first 40 elements. So you study the names of the first 40 elements, and as you study the names of the first 40 elements, you also study the symbols, okay? Well, there are so many, okay, there are so many important things to study from the periodic table, okay? Very soon you will have to know the valency also, okay? There are some chapters like chapter 3 where you will have to know valency, valence electrons and all that, okay? So we have to study so much, but from the very first chapter itself, I would like you to download the periodic table, okay, and study the names of the first 40 elements. And as you study the names of the first 40 elements, study the symbols also, okay? That way you will have an advantage over chemistry, okay? Chemistry gets much easier, okay, if you have a sound knowledge of the elements, okay? So please do that. So in skeletal equation is a representation of chemical equation using standard symbols. So I need to know the symbols of this, okay? So now I'll be converting this word equation into skeletal equation. So how do I do that? So magnesium, the symbol of magnesium is Mg. So I will just write Mg. See, I'm not writing magnesium, the entire thing. No, I'm just writing Mg because Mg is a symbol of magnesium. Plus, and oxygen. Oxygen also, I'll just write the symbol of oxygen, okay? O2. And then, what do I get? I get magnesium oxide. So it will be MgO. So see, for some of you, the skeletal equation will be a challenge. So please do what I just told you, okay, earlier. Download the periodic table. It's a sincere request that if you really want to, okay, if you really want to master this lesson, you need to know the names of the elements. You have to study the names of the element, okay? Remember them by heart, okay? And then at the same time, remember the symbols also. That way, and plus a lot of practice. So we will be doing a lot of practice. So if after that, okay, you will be having a bigger advantage over this lesson. But before that, you have some homework to do, and that is study the elements, memorize them by heart, okay? And then remember the symbols also. If you can do that much, this is very easy. So this, okay, this requires a lot of effort from your end, okay? So even me, I had to learn like that. So you will also have to learn like that. Regarding how to memorize the sequence and all that, you can always think of some tricks and ways and means by which you can remember quickly, because the names of the elements is huge, isn't it? 40 elements may not be easy to memorize. So you will have to, okay, you will have to find out some ways and means. You can always check YouTube also. There are many tricks and hacks which have been uploaded, so you can refer to one of those, and that way, okay, you have to study smart, okay? You have to study smart, okay? You cannot spend hours and hours. If you are taking hours and hours to do something, you have to find a quick way to study or to do it, okay? That is how you should do things, okay? Time is very precious and we don't have much time, okay? So remember that. So this is how you write skeletal equation. All right, so basically in today's class we will end from here. So let us take a quick summary of what we have learned. We have learned what is a chemical reaction, the reactants and the products, and at the same time we have also learned how to determine whether a chemical reaction has taken place or not. And finally we were discussing chemical equations, okay? Chemical equations. The two techniques here are word equation and skeletal equation. Our primary focus will be skeletal equation. In the next class, I will teach you how to balance chemical equations. Thank you so much and do join again.